Yan! Drama! Ang daming drama. Tuloy, 3 hours lang yata ako nakatulog over the past, 30 hours, 24 hours. Analyzing itong latest developments na nangyari dahil nga hindi tayo sure ano talaga magiging final lineup ng administration side. Pero katulad ng sinabi natin, actually I posted 2 of my articles from weeks earlier and days earlier kung saan sinabi ko na Bongbong Marcos is the candidate to beat because most likely ang mangyaring tandem dito is Marcos as the presidential candidate and Sara Duterte as the vice presidential candidate. Bakit kamo? Dahil my argument was that the ship has already sailed pagdating dun sa ambisyon ni Sara to run for presidency this year or ambisyon ng kanyang supporters because Bongbong Marcos already took the initiative. He consolidated support on the ground. Last month pa lang pinosition niya ang sarili niya as the standard bearer of the administration. And the Marcoses are essentially presenting themselves as a more improved version of the Dutertes, you know. So in that sense, you know, and Bongbong Marcos stood his ground, no? I think there were some calls for him to withdraw na or slide down to the vice presidency. Tapos meron pa yung kaiwanan na, ano daw, term sharing? What the heck is that? Walang ganyan sa ating constitution at walang political precedence for that. Ano to? Speaker of the House? Presidente po ang pinag-usapan natin. 6-year term, single term, 6 years, single term in office. Ito yung nasa ating saligang batas, no? 6 years, single term. Walang yung pinagsasabi nila na term sharing. So, Bongbong Marcos made it very clear. No to term sharing. No to sliding down to the vice presidency, and no to withdrawing from the presidency. No, so he stood his ground, and I think eventually some of the people who were hoping for Sara to run as the president, they blinked, and they had no choice because, you know, whether they wanted or not, Bongbong Marcos is the most formidable candidate on their side, and arguably now, if the Dutertes really rally behind the Marcoses and Bongbong Marcos candidacy, medyo formidable itong maging alliance na yan, no? Because kitang-kita natin na si Bongbong Marcos ay napakalakas sa National Capital Region. I think sila ni Iskong naglabanan dito sa region na yan, at saka balang sa Luzon. Not to mention doon rin sa Ilocos, of course, and Cordilleras among others. Not that all are pro-Marcoses, pero significant yung support base niya. Pero alam natin si Bongbong medyo mahina siya sa Mindanao. That was also the case back in 2016 elections. So I think this is where Sara could help him a lot, no? If really Sara is really the final vice presidential de facto candidate of Bongbong Marcos. They're not the same party. Hindi lakas CMD si Marcos, but de facto VP niya essentially now is Sara Duterte, no? So we have this Marcos Duterte axis in these elections, and that's a formidable alliance, no? Which shows that so far, actually, ito yung kwento ngayon eh. Ang hirap mag-unify ng isang ticket dito sa Pilipinas. I think this has been the story over the past 2 or 3 months at least, no? Nakita natin yung opposition, nahirapan sila. Nakita din natin yung administration, hindi rin sure shot, no? You know, I don't think it was really just drama. I don't think hindi lang Duterte style theatrics to. I think there was really some genuine back and forth, no, on who will really be the presidential candidate. Because I mentioned earlier, the vice presidency is not really that enticing to either Sara or Marcos. Marcos, for obvious reasons, he already ran for it, and he cannot wait another 6 years, and more than 6 years in that sense. Because by that time, maging almost 17 na siya. Imelda is already, 92? I don't think they can wait another 6 years. Maging 100-year-old na siya kung gusto niya bumalik sa Malacanang. So I don't think that's an option that much for the Marcoses. They're all in, as I argued. So they really want to go in dito sa race na yan. As for Sara, of course, you know, actually, if you look at the survey, Sara does better as a presidential candidate than a vice presidential candidate. So, yes, I stand by my argument that I think both of them really wanted to run for the presidency. I stand by that argument. But I also stand by my forecast, or some would say prediction, you know, days and weeks earlier, that Bongbong Marcos has the upper hand as far as the administration is concerned. So, this is the situation that we have today, no? Tumatawag na natin isang editor ko, no? I have to send pieces on this as soon as possible. So yun, nawala yung train of thought ko. Well, yan, kulang ng tulog. So yun, I think both sides really didn't want to be vice president, but at the same time, there was a realization, both sides were rational enough to make sure na hindi sila mag head-to-head clash showdown dito. Kasi kung nag head-to-head, both of them joined the presidential race, nako, mahirap po yan. Magiging magsisplit talaga yung votes. And that would have really opened up the space. As I said, opposition could have made a lot of inroads if the split happened. But that doesn't seem to happen. That doesn't seem to be happening. And, ayan na. Pagod na talaga eh. That doesn't seem to be happening. And, eto na nga eh. When it comes to the opposition, I think now the pressure is on them. As I mentioned in a FB Alive earlier, I think there was one suggestion, if I'm not mistaken, si Tito Soto. Now, one option is dun sa mga alternative candidates. I don't want to call it opposition candidate lang because some of the alternative candidates do not want to be identified as opposition. I don't think Lacson, I don't think Soto, or even Pacquiao wants to be identified as opposition. But the reality is that all of them are alternative candidates, no? So, Lenny might claim that sila lang talagang real opposition, but we're talking about alternative candidates. So, I think one proposal was that all of them are going to stay in the race, and then later on, kung sino ang pinakamataas yung ratings and all, eventually dapat the alternative / opposition should rally behind her or him, no? So, yun yung suggestion. Kasi wala nga tayong run-off election sa Pilipinas. Remember, Marcos, all he has to do is to just win more votes than everyone else. That could be just the biggest plurality. That could be, a simple majority, or that could be just a small minority, right? Like what Ramos had back in 1992 with barely 25% or a quarter of the vote. So, ang hirap nun. So, walang runoff, so walang chance for kind of elimination among the top contenders on both sides. So what will happen here is that siguro by February or March, dapat mag-decide, no? Mag-decide itong mga alternative / opposition candidates, sino talagang i-vote nila. Because I think this is really time to discuss yung issue ng tactical or smart voting. I think the opposition really has to take a hard look at the situation, go back to the drawing board, and titignan talaga nila what is the best way for them to overcome the surging candidacy of Bongbong Marcos. Again, this is not an endorsement of Bongbong Marcos or anything like that. Some people are taking issue with me na, why do you keep on saying Marcos malakas? I mean, this is just an objective fact that as far as leading candidates are concerned, especially with Sara out, Grace Poe out, no? Really, Bongbong Marcos is going to be really in a strong position here, and he could potentially corner 30-40% of the votes, no? So, this is what we're looking at. So I think now the pressure really is on the opposition to get their house in order. And first of all, to agree on some basic principles and from there work it out. Now, whether they can pull it off, I don't know. But there's always a first for everything, right? So even if wala tayong round of elections, I think it's incumbent upon the opposition to, if they really want to prevent Marcos' presidency, no, to really get their house in order. Now, what I'm going to say is this. The way the race is shaping up, one could argue, siguro kung ikaw yung isang manunulat or isang historian, siguro 10 years from now or even more, you're gonna say that maybe Duterte was not really the biggest phenomenon in early 21st century Philippine politics. That perhaps Duterte was just the curtain raiser for the return of the Marcoses. I think this is the story that is coming out. The Marcoses are now in an ascendant position, and the Dutertes are essentially they're major backers now, no? So I think the stage is now increasingly being claimed by the Marcoses. Now, so the opposition really has to pull off something, come up with something, if they want to make sure that our contemporary history, our early 21st century history will not be one whereby, as crazy the situation has been over the past 5 years, as revolutionary, as upending, as shocking, as troubling as the past 5 years may have been, that perhaps Duterte's presidency was just a curtain raiser for the Marcoses. If current trends continue, that could be the history that will be written 10, 15, 20 years down the road. Kaya mahalaga talaga ito na for the opposition, whoever they are, to agree on, first of all, what is an opposition, what are their shared concerns and principles, and then from there work it through. Lastly, what I want to say on this we're gonna have more discussions on Monday. Monday, sorry, medyo sabaw na ako. I have to respond also to my editors and all. I have to file analysis and arguments on that. Kanina, lahat, New York Times, Wall Street Journal, and mga others. Kasi the other week palang sabi ko, Sara Duterte will not run for the presidency. And actually, it's there already in my writings posted there. So yes, I did an FBI Live about potential scenario that Sara will run. And I really do believe Sara wanted to run for the presidency, and her supporters really want her to run for the presidency. But the momentum is simply not with her. It's really more with the Bongbong side, and Bongbong is not gonna step down or slide down or step out. They're in this race, no. So yun yung situation natin ngayon, no. Any questions? Mayabang na naman kayo dyan eh. Al, anong sinasabi niyo? Oh yeah, well, let me say this. Still, a lot can happen between now and May, right? A lot can happen. Remember, where was President Duterte in the race in November of 2015? Right? Who thought he would be the next president? I mean, aside from his super, super believers, no, yung mga DDS talaga and all of that. No, Duterte was like barely 5 to 10%. So I'm just saying, a lot can still happen. There's going to be presidential debates, and I think one line that a lot of the candidates are going to take against Marcos is not only about yung legacy ng Marcos dictatorship, yung Oxford certificate, among other things. No, hindi ganun. Oxford, no. Yung Oxford certificate. In fairness, he attended Oxford University. He's pretty articulate, smart guy. But again, we have to be quite consistent about some objective truths. No, I think it's not only going to be an attack on him on his educational attainments, credentials, or his historical background, or the Marcos dictatorship years. But I think the big issue also in the presidential debates will be this: ano ang ginawa ni Bongbong Marcos bilang governor, official in Ilocos? What does he have to show for Ilocos Norte? If the Marcoses are really so fabulous, anong achievements nila doon? And especially during pandemic, anong ginawa niya para sa bansa, no? So ano ang bag mo? Yun ang magiging tanong at atake ng kanyang mga karibal. So let's see how he's going to respond to that. So I'm already giving a preview of what the debates are going to look like. So you can imagine what Isko Moreno is going to say, what he has done over the past 2 years as mayor of Manila, si Yorme. You can talk about what Leni Robredo has been doing for the country over the past years, especially during the pandemic, for the frontliners. So, I'm just saying, yes, Marcos is now going to be the, clear front runner in one way or another. Although, of course, I'm open to be corrected on this, and I'm open to be surprised, right? But as things stand, Marcos will be the front runner, especially with Sara out of the race. As things stand, again, this is Duterte's Philippines. Anything can happen as far as the politics is concerned. But things could still dramatically change. There could be curveballs. There could be some major shifts in sentiments during elections. So now the challenge for Bongbong Marcos is not to make too many big mistakes, right? Because he is now in a very good position. He just has to be consistent about his position, and all he has to do is just to win the biggest share of the votes, not the majority necessarily, but the biggest share of the votes. So now the onus is on the opposition to get their house in order and to come out with really a multi-pronged, comprehensive, and most effective possible line of attack, and also line of promotion of their own advocacies. No, so I don't think yung attacking the Ferdinand Marcos dictatorship legacy will be enough. They really have to go more aggressively on multiple fronts. And let's see what the Bongbong Marcos side has in their, what tricks they got up their sleeves. No, and as far as Bongbong Marcos is concerned, well, he's quite a chill guy, right? I mean, communication-wise, medyo malinis, quite coherent. So, it seems Marcoses have been also preparing for this moment. This is their moment. For 30 years, almost exactly, they have been systematically waiting for this moment. And they're not going to let go of this chance. They're going to do their best to win their way back to the Malacanang. No? And that is why the opposition should really up their game, right? And really rally behind the most viable candidate in the coming months, if they don't want Duterte to just turn out as a curtain raiser for the return of the Marcoses. All right. No, I'm not saying, come on. I'm not endorsing the Marcos. I'm talking about the objective developments here. As I said, the race can change dramatically, But as of now, with Sara not in the presidential race, Marcos is going to be in a strong position. And if the Sara side actually support Marcos big time, then in Mindanao, lalakas si Marcos. Yun ang sinasabi ko, I'm not endorsing the guy. I mean, don't be ridiculous, guys. Come on. We're analyzing facts on the ground, right? Developments on the ground. And yes, for those who are worried about historical revisionism, those who are concerned about accountability and social justice, you know, they have to up their game. That's essentially the point. That's essentially the challenge right now, right? And for those who want historical revisionism, who want to celebrate authoritarian populism, you know, they are in a much better position than they would have thought perhaps just a few years ago. No, but let me end on this point. We also know from 2016 elections that Bongbong Marcos being in the race kind of helps Leni Robredo. Because it's really the juxtaposition between Leni Robredo and Bongbong Marcos that actually perhaps kind of explains both of them really racing through the ranks. Neither Bongbong Marcos nor Leni were really the clear front runner at this stage of the race back in the 2016 elections, but of course back then for the vice presidency. But I think we can draw some lessons from that. And ang point ko dito is, yung presence ni Bongbong Marcos dyan ay medyo, it could also help Leni Robredo to mobilize her support base, because yung support base ni Leni talaga is never again, #never again base. No? So this kind of a opposition between Leni and Marcos, I think, could make this race increasingly between two of them. But obviously, Pacquiao and Isko also have their own game plan, and each of them also have their own strategy to move forward. So let's see. Things could get very fluid, very interesting in the coming weeks and months. But what I'm doing here is, again, we're not endorsing anyone. All we're saying here is that at this point in time, with Sara Duterte withdrawing from the race, Grace Poe not in the race, right? This is benefiting Marcos more than anyone else. And this is putting more pressure than ever on the opposition to get their house in order and to unify, right? Yun lang, okay? We're just talking about, we're talking about that. So please lang, folks, don't be overly emotional or don't take it against me, whether you're pro-Marcos, anti-Marcos, whatever. We're doing analysis here, right? The DQ case, I don't know. I mean, hinayaan nilang tumakbo si Bongbong Marcos as congressman, as senator, as vice president. So, now pa lang magde-DQ case sa kanya. I think even Leni said the same thing, right? So, yeah. I'm not sure about the DQ case, right? Right. But again, I mean, one thing interesting is that mukhang very passionate support, no, for multiple candidates here. Tignan mo yung supporters ni Marcos, tignan mo yung supporters ni Leni, right? Supporters ni Isko. So it's interesting. I'm happy to see so much passion and interest in the future of our country. Clearly, I'm gonna end on this point because I have to respond na to the editors and all. Clearly, let's just keep it there. Yun nga, medyo ubus na yung ano ko, energy ko. Any last questions before we leave? But yeah, sense ko talaga, Sara Duterte I wanted to run for the presidency. It's just that, yeah, ito pala yung point ko. Gloria Macapagal Arroyo. So the whole Lakas CMD angle here, Arroyo is the kingmaker or queenmaker. I don't know how things are going to turn out, or indirectly a queenmaker. But former President Arroyo is increasingly looking like the kingmaker in these elections, at least on the side of the administration. She played a very key role in putting this team together, and to a lesser degree, people like Deputy Majority Leader Romualdez. So I think those are also other figures that we have to keep in mind. But let's see, what's interesting here is that while all of this drama has been happening, mukhang Isko and Leni and other candidates have been doing their own thing, right? So, and Pacquiao is not withdrawing. He's in the race. He's not gonna give way to Sara or anything like that. So one thing interesting here is that if Pacquiao stays in the race and Sara Duterte withdraws, actually one big winner in Mindanao could also be Pacquiao, right? Yes, good. I remember that. So I think it's important to keep in mind that Pacquiao could potentially also become a big winner here if he position himself as the man of the Mindanao island. So I think Pacquiao is also in a good position here. And if you're opposition, you would want that to happen because you want to deny Marcos, essentially gaining ground in Mindanao via the Duterte support, right? So I think Pacquiao staying in the race also makes it a little bit more interesting, more unpredictable, and more competitive. Yun lang. But had Sara run, and andun pa rin si Bongbong, then it would have been way more competitive and tight race, right? But nothing is given. Nothing is predetermined, especially sa politics, especially in Philippine politics. But then again, the job of prognostication and forecast and analysis is to look at trend lines, no? And probabilities, not certainties. Hindi tayo Madam Auring, but we're talking about probabilities here and scenarios here. At yun po yung ginagawa natin dito sa ating mga meta-alive. Although ngayon hindi ganun ka-alive, medyo windang ako, no? So I hope you see what we're doing here. We're not endorsing anyone. We're not saying the future is predetermined. It is not. We still have agency. There are many contingencies. Many things could change in the coming months. What I'm doing here is to talk about yung trend lines, talking about different scenarios, at ano po yung pinaka-probable scenarios as of now, given the alignment of forces on the ground, which itself is fluid and can change in the coming weeks and months. Now, of course, on the administration side, eventually mukhang meron na silang unity team. But it's not the end of the story, because the opposition has still time, no? They should have done it perhaps earlier, actually certainly earlier, but they still have time to also come up with their unity team. So siguro maging challenge ito dun sa opposition to also get their own house in order and to rally behind the most viable candidate, right? All right. Maraming salamat. Thank you very much, guys. Thank you very much. Please, again, understand, hindi tayo nag-endorse dito. We're not trying to say anything is predetermined. Nothing is predetermined. Anything is possible. And if you participate, you do your part, you can make sure that the best outcome for the country will come into fruition next year. Maraming salamat. Thank you very much. Elections are exciting, are interesting. Overall, para sa akin, because it shows that democracy is still alive. Democracy is besieged in the country. It has been decaying in many ways. It has been in trouble, it's true. But also the democratic spirit of the Filipino people is alive, right? That is what's important for me. And we have to make sure that next year and for years to come, we'll be in a far better position than we have been in the past 2 years during the pandemic, but even more in the past 5 years and so. And hopefully, but yung mga kakulangan ng dating mga administrasyon na paved the way for the rise of authoritarian populism, sana we also can plug in the gaps there. All right? Maraming salamat. So the greater the challenge, the greater also the incentive for innovation. You know, the mother of invention, right, is necessity, right? And now that necessity is there for the opposition. So now let's wait for their invention and innovation in dealing with the challenge that is Ferdinand Marcos Jr., Bongbong Marcos, who's now the front runner in the race. All right? Maraming salamat. Things could still change a lot, so we're gonna have more meta alive and hopefully a little bit more rest. God bless. Have a good blessed weekend. Ayan na, nabubulo na ako, pagod na ako. And have a blessed Sabbath day tomorrow. All right? Maraming salamat. God bless. Talk to you guys soon again. Yeah, I need to rest. Ang kita niyo talaga medyo, you know me, right? I mean, if I'm really well rested, or normally I can just go like that. Pero talagang you can see already I'm a bit struggling to keep it, right? Alright, magpahinga muna ako konti kasi I still have to file 2 more articles tonight for next week. So abangan nyo, I'm gonna post also those articles and analysis, right? Kasi iba yung conversational, iba yung talagang written, distilled, no? Condensed analysis, no? Alright, God bless, salamat, thank you very much. Please post your comments, send me comments, send your suggestions, but be nice. Constructive criticisms are always welcome, but be fair, be nice. Tao lang po tayo, pagod tayo, live lang ito. Hindi siguro ganun ka-alive today, but we're doing our best here, alright, to give you spontaneous live analysis as developments come in and as we juggle 1,000 different things, interviews, writings, etc. Alright, God bless, thank you very much.